we want to, this is the equation for this particular circle. This is the general form of a circle. This is the equation for this particular circle. Now, for general forms of circles, where it's at the origin, the center is at the origin. See the center right here? Center of the circle is right at the origin. It always is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. R stands for your radius. So if we look at this problem right here, what is the center? Well, the center is hk, but in this particular problem we said it's at the origin, so the center for this particular one is at 0, 0. Now if you look over here, the center changes. There's an hk idea. You got to think back to parabolas first semester to understand that. But we'll talk more about that in a second. But anyways, this is focused at the center. And the second piece, to find the radius, is r. So if this is r squared, to get r, you square root it. See, r is equal to the square root of r squared. So basically you go, okay, 16. You take the 16, but you square root it, and that would be 4. So the radius is 4. What does all that mean? Well, if you look at this, what is the radius of this circle? Well, isn't that radius 4 all the way around? Isn't the origin at 0, 0? The center at the origin, sorry. So that's simply this. They're pretty easy graphs and they're like this. Now looking at problem 2, or the second one. This is where the center is not at the origin, it's at a certain point, hk. hk, h always goes with the x, k always goes with the y, and the negatives means opposite of them. So if we look at this, our hk, this is the x value, the opposite of negative 2 is going to be positive 2. So the coordinate is 2, comma, what's the opposite for the y? The opposite of 3 is negative 3. So what does that mean? Well, if we look down here, 2, negative 3, if we go over 2, down 3, doesn't that look like the center of this circle right here? 2, negative 3 is the center of this circle, because this is a circle for this equation. So if you compare to this one does not have the hk, so the origins is 0, 0. But if you have a shifting process here, it has a new origin, a new center that's not at the origin. Now the radius is the same way. You just take this number by itself over here, and to find the radius, you square root it. So the square root of 25 is 5. So if we look at the graph, is that a length of 5? Yeah, that radius is 5. So again, the form for circles is always an x squared and a y squared. Sometimes you have an hk, and they have some other number, and that number is your radius. Okay, let's look at this one right here. For this particular problem, first of all, which type is it like? Does it have a center at the origin or center at hk? Well, if you look at this, it looks more like this one. So we have a center of this circle is at hk. So what is hk going to be? Well, it looks like hk, what's the opposite of 3? That would be negative 3. What's the opposite of negative 1? That would be 1. So what we do is we go over 3 and up 1. That's right there. That's over 3 and up 1. See, they go by 2's. From there, we look at this 9. What does that 9 represent? Well, if we look back up here, what we did with 25, we square rooted it to the radius. So if we went the radius, well, the radius is just going to be the square root of 9, which is 3. So from this point, we go over 1, 2, 3. And to get the circle, let's go 3 in all directions. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Do you kind of see how we have a circle? If we finish this off, there is our circle. Radius of 3, hk is at negative 3, 1. Now the last one, we're not asking to graph it, we're just asking to find the center and the radius. So first of all, it's like this problem. So the center is hk. So our center is hk. And if we look at this, h is your x value, so the opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. The opposite of 8 is negative 8. So the center would be, for this one, 7, negative 8. You go over 7 and down 8 to be the center right there. Anyways, but we're not graphing it. We just want to know those two things. So there's my center. And how do you find your radius? Well, your radius is simply always going to be this number and square root it. So the square root of 60. Now, the square root of 60, you actually, that's it. This is square root of 60 because that doesn't break down nicely. But what we probably could do is realize that's the square root of 4 times the square root of 15. And then from there, you hopefully could notice that the square root of 4 is at 2. So your radius could also be written as 2 square root 15. It would probably be written like this instead of square root of 60. That would be your radius. And that value would probably be somewhere between, square root of 64 is 8, and be somewhere between 8 and 7, closer to 8, probably 7.6. You probably would get something about 7.7, 7.6, because again it's between 64 and 49.